फ्रेशर की सैलरीज कितनी रेंज में होती हैं एंड क्या ग्रोथ पोटेंशियल है इस फील्ड में। बट इंडिया में मतलब क्या फ्यूचर आपको दिखता है? बिकॉज जैसे हमने जितनी भी फेमस गेम्स देखी हैं, हार्डली वी सीन इंडियन गेम्स दैट हैव बीन पॉपुलर अक्रॉस द वर्ल्ड। सो इंडिया की क्या ट्रेजेक्टरी आपको लगता है कि इंडिया में स्कोप रहेगा या फिर इवेंचुअली बाहर ही मूव आउट करना पड़ेगा? तो ये जो बड़े बड़े गेम स्टूडियोज होते हैं जो जिनका काम ही है ये गेम बनाना ही उनका काम है, तो हाउ डू दे एक्चुअली अर्न? बिकॉज मोस्ट ऑफ द गेम्स दैट वी प्ले जो फेमस हैं दे आर यूजुअली फ्री। आपके अकॉर्डिंग जैसे पबजी लेवल का गेम है विच इज लाइक वर्ल्ड फेमस गेम एंड हैज मिलियंस ऑफ यूजर्स, मिलियंस ऑफ प्लेयर्स, उसको बनाने में कितना पैसा लगा होगा, कितने रिसोर्सेज लगे होंगे? जस्ट बॉल पार्क फिगर अगर आप आइडिया दे पाओ तो।
Pokemon Go.
हाँ, पीपल गॉट एडिक्टेड।
Yeah.
मतलब बच्चों ने जो अपने माँ बाप के क्रेडिट कार्ड्स ड्रेन कर दिए। सो आर द गेम्स डिजाइन्ड इन अ वे टू मेक देम एडिक्टिव? क्या होते हैं ये इंडी गेम डेवलपर्स?
उदास लोग होते हैं।
बचपन में गेम्स तो बहुत खेले होंगे, लेकिन क्या आपने कभी सोचा है कि यार ये गेम बनाते कैसे हैं? अगर सोचा है तो डोंट वरी, आज के पॉडकास्ट में उसका आंसर मिल जाएगा। नमस्ते एवरीवन, वेलकम टू द क्यूरियस पॉडकास्ट। और आज का शो का पूरा टॉपिक है अबाउट गेम डेवलपमेंट एंड आज के हमारे स्पेशल गेस्ट हैं शुभम। शुभम इज अ गेम डेवलपर हिमसेल्फ एंड ही इज अ मेंटर टू थाउजेंड्स ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स हु वांट टू मेक अ करियर इन गेम डेवलपमेंट। तो बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग पॉडकास्ट होने वाला है, स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम करियर कैसे बनाना है, ग्रोथ कितनी होती है, सैलरीज कितनी मिलती हैं, बाहर जाने का मौका मिलता है या नहीं मिलता। ईच एंड एवरी क्वेश्चन वी हैव कवर्ड इन दिस पॉडकास्ट। अगर आप करियर बनाना चाहते हैं गेम डेवलपमेंट में, ट्रस्ट मी, ये पॉडकास्ट से आपको इतनी इनसाइट्स मिलेंगी कि आप एकदम श्योर हो जाएंगे कि मुझे गेम डेवलपमेंट में जाना भी है या नहीं जाना। सो विदाउट वेस्टिंग एनी मोर टाइम, लेट्स वेलकम आवर गेस्ट शुभम।
Welcome to the podcast, Shubham. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. What about you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. और आज का जो पॉडकास्ट है गाइज, किसी को भी अगर गेम डेवलपमेंट में जाना है तो वो आज का पॉडकास्ट स्टार्टिंग से लेके एंड तक देखने वाला है। शुभम, आई हैव कपल ऑफ क्वेश्चंस ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स अबाउट द गेमिंग इंडस्ट्री ओवरऑल। सो लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड। आई एम पर्सनली वेरी एक्साइटेड।
Yeah, sure.
तो सबसे पहले सवाल ये आता है कि हम जब भी कोई गेम खेलते हैं वो हमें उसका एकदम एंड रिजल्ट दिख रहा होता है। But let's go back. Let's take a step back and understand the process that goes behind the game development. Can you talk about that process?
I can, but it's a pretty long answer. I'll try to shorten it up. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take an example that makes it very easy to understand. If you think about Mario, right? For example, if I ask you, what do you see on the screen? If you can answer that.
I can see characters, I can see the
Okay.
graphics, UI, UX, maybe I can see the characters moving on the commands that I give.
You actually enlisted a lot of things that game involves, right? You have these pictures or characters that we call sprite usually, right? Then you have this UI UX. You need to have a system for UI UX. Then you have a input system, okay? You're going in and giving input WSD, your Mario character is moving. You have a sound as well, right? Then the Mario character interacts, right? If you think about game development is actually culmination of many arts. You're telling a story. Through that, you are, getting a person to do sound. You're getting a person to program the behavior. Essentially, that picture doesn't know how to move. How will it move when you, write some code on it? When you press W, what happens? Right? You add some kind of force. Then you have some animation going through it. Then how would my Mario would interact with, these enemies? Then how long would be the level? Then there is a person, a psychologist who looks at how would this game play? What would be the experience? What would be the fun factor? The fun factor is the most important, right? So discovering could be fun factor. So different games have different fun factors. So essentially, when you are looking at it, you look at it like, any other piece of software, but you also look at key fun factor kahan hai. So that is the major breakdown, bringing them all together. You need a game engine. A game engine is something that actually, at the start when the games were being made, so people saw ki we always need to, have a character, have sound system, have UI system, have physics, because you need gravity. If you are jumping, you need to add force, right? So they coded it at a centerpiece and gave it to you. They said reuse it. Why should you reinvent the wheel? So
Hmm.
game engine gives you all that. You
Hmm.
just take it and
Hmm.
put your own creativity and create games. So that is the whole process. In that sense, in layman sense, if I talk about
Hmm.
technical, there is a different process altogether
Hmm.
going behind the scenes. So first there is a game designer who designs the game, thinks कि मेरा game ऐसा, like it would look like this, it would
Hmm.
feel like this, playing it would feel like this. For example, if you imagine taking a walk near your house in
Hmm.
a park. For you a park might be different, for me it would be different. So
Hmm.
that's the visualization, then you put it into words for others to create that world, right? Then 3D artist would create the whole environment of the park. Developers would actually go ahead and code the person walking, ki how will that person walk. Then there would be art and animations going ahead. So a lot of things I just can't answer in like this short span of time. So yeah.
Yeah. Definitely lot of things. As you were saying, I was trying to imagine every move that I've ever played on any game. I was trying to sort of, create a backstory for that. अच्छा इसके लिए क्या लगा होगा? अगर मैं कैरेक्टर देख रही हूँ तो उसके लिए डिजाइनर लगा होगा. उसको डिजाइन किसने किया होगा? अगर मेरा कैरेक्टर मूव कर रहा है तो उसके लिए जो है अलग तरीके से कोड हुआ होगा. So yeah, lot of things that go into making the app finally. Game industry, as we know, is like a very very huge industry, approximately $243 billion, if I'm not wrong. And I believe अगर किसी को इसमें जाना है, so there must be different fields and options available for a student to start off their career. Could you talk about the fields that can help them get started? और yeah, and कौन सी फील्ड में सबसे ज्यादा ग्रोथ है आजकल, because people want to go into that field जहाँ पर ग्रोथ हो, potential हो.
If you ask me about the money factor, so game development has the most amount of money usually. Reason being, you are a software engineer in a sense, right? You are just programming in C sharp or C++.
Hmm.
Plus, it gives you an option to move around as well. If you tomorrow want to, say, yeah, gaming mein maza nahi aa raha, I
Hmm.
want to do something more, AI mein jana, you
Hmm.
can eventually. The basics are always the same,
Okay.
right? You have this spatial intelligence, then you can move around AR, VR development as well. Because gaming is the basic. You get that spatial knowledge,
Hmm.
spatial thinking, and visualization, so
Hmm.
you can get there. But if you ask me about like all the other roles that are involved, then you have game designers, right?
Okay.
Then apart from game designer, you have concept artist, you have foley artist for audios, then you have animators, then you have 3D modelers. Then going ahead, you have esports management. Then gaming, I won't involve esports player as of now, because usually these guys train themselves. So that's a very different career trajectory.
Hmm.
Then apart from it, like these are the main functions that I can think
Hmm.
of right now. Then
Hmm.
there are shader programmers as well. So then these all major categories, sub branch into others. Game
Okay.
producer, project manager.
Okay.
So that's
Hmm.
apart from it, you can also say sometimes even game designers earn a lot more than game developers. So then you need to be legendary. If you aim to be the best, you are gonna earn the best,
Hmm.
even if you're a game dev or audio designer.
Hmm.
But essentially the upper ceiling changes.
Hmm.
So developer upper ceiling is pretty high compared to designer. So that is how things work.
ओके, लेट्स टॉक अबाउट स्पेसिफिकली गेम डेवलपमेंट. अब जैसे क्या होता है कि सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलपमेंट में भी इतनी सारी लैंग्वेजेस सीखनी होती हैं. मैं क्योंकि मैंने उसके बारे में सुना हुआ है तो मैं उसी का
Hmm.
कॉन्टेक्स्ट दे रही हूँ ऑडियंस को. आपके पास फ्रंट एंड डेवलपमेंट का ऑप्शन होता है, आपके पास बैक एंड डेवलपमेंट का ऑप्शन होता है, आपके पास फुल स्टैक डेवलपमेंट का ऑप्शन होता
Hmm.
है. सो व्हेन यू टॉक अबाउट गेम डेवलपमेंट, आर देयर एनी सब ब्रांचेस दैट अ स्टूडेंट कैन टेक अप which is eventually going to lead their path towards game development, or like a portion of game development?
Okay, first I'll answer this question in a generalist view,
Hmm.
then specific to game dev. So a lot of students who enter software engineering,
Hmm.
they're all like, "Ki kaun si language karu? What should I do?" So essentially, for data structures, you go with C++. Usually the best because it has pointers. You learn memory management,
Hmm.
right? Even game dev is done usually in C Sharp and C plus plus,
Hmm.
right? C Sharp, why? Because Unity engine you are using C plus plus, Unreal Engine. But again, each and every language is used for a specific thing. Python is used for usually MLAI, right? Then you have this React is used for web dev. Okay. Then if you talk about Dart, Kotlin, I guess, and
Hmm.
Java.
Hmm.
Java is very versatile, but essentially Android dev,
Hmm.
it can be used for iOS. You get Swift, Objective.
Hmm.
Also, essentially, you pick up a language according to which project do you want to create. But if you do one language, you do C++, you
Hmm.
can essentially translate that same knowledge into another language.
Hmm.
Reason the basic construct are same. If you have like something called as if else loop, variable, data types,
Hmm.
you might have used Excel. Even there, you might have seen data types. Some
Hmm.
things are numbers, some are text,
Yeah.
right? These are essentially data type evolved from programming, right? You write in formulas.
Hmm.
Okay, so again, programming have some formula. So things translate to one another. You just need to have a logical mind and you're good to go. Know where you want to go.
Hmm.
Is the question, like, is the problem. So I usually suggest go with C++, do your data structure well. That gives you a good understanding of how languages work in the backend,
Okay.
right? Because it's a low level language. It was created like when I guess 1970s, 60s or 70s. I don't remember the exact one,
Mm-hmm.
but because it is so close to the level language, the zeros and ones,
Hmm.
in that language
The
people
binary.
used to code. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So because it's very close, and it's very old, so there are a lot of new features that are not there. So you have to create it sometime. So you
Hmm.
get to know that this is how new languages are working in the backend. So thoda it gives you an edge over that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah,
Uh, but I think my question still remains unanswered. These are the languages. Okay, I got
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But गेम डेवलपमेंट में मतलब जाना है तो मुझे स्पेसिफिकली लाइक मुझे गेम डेवलपमेंट में ही जाना है तो इसमें फ्रंट एंड बैक एंड ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता है.
Acha, nahi, it
हाँ.
is there. So if you are building a multiplayer game, you usually have a front end of a game engine, right? Maybe Unity you have or Unreal Engine you have. You pick a engine.
हम्म.
Then in the back end, you have Node.js going on together, or you can have Photon multiplayer ke liye. Then you have other things, but usually, Node.js is preferred to be used because it's very versatile with even other, backends it's used. So it's very standardized there.
Okay.
So that is what you can do. But game developer, if you want to be, you should know a game engine. And I'll prefer Unity. Beginner friendly it is. You can, pick it up easily. Plus, a lot of tutorials are there.
हम्म.
Then Unreal, there's this one problem with that. You need a very good config of your PC to run it. i3 can run like Unity, but Unreal won't run on i3. So usually a lot of startups, a lot of companies use this Unity because of that.
Okay.
Plus there are some, like monetization scenarios as well.
हम्म.
So Unity just changed it
हम्म.
uh, a day ago. Right. So I don't know how it will affect, but before Unity was much more, efficient. If you want to turn your game into a revenue earning machine, it was much more better to use Unity than Unreal.
Okay, okay, right. So multiplayer engine के लिए just to summarize what you said, multiplayer game आपको बनाना है तो you need a backend and the
Yeah.
backend includes a lot of engine part, right?
Mhm.
And
No,
then
no. Backend involves like use of Node.js.
okay.
Essentially,
Hmm.
it's the similar backend you use in websites. It's
Okay.
not much different.
So the backend is Node.js and the front end includes engine and on top of that everything is built upon,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, got it. Uh, so how can one get started into the game development? वो वही route है कि पहले अपना CS या फिर BTech करके and then you further get into game
Mhm.
development या फिर
Uh,
directly जा सकते हैं?
you can essentially directly get into game dev,
Okay.
right? But the problem is a lot of companies ask for a graduation, right? Not every company is skill based. So that is one thing. If you really want to go there, I have had a student who went there,
Hmm.
Aditya, I guess. So that got dropped off. Eventually, studied game development on YouTube, and eventually went there. So you can look at Unity ka resources itself, Unity Learn. If you want to self learn, then
Okay.
YouTube Pay, you get a lot of tutorials. What you do essentially is take a game, Flappy Birds, try to build a copy of it, and
Okay.
look at YouTube tutorials,
Hmm.
and then break down the game in like
Hmm.
chunks. For example, Flappy Bird, what
Hmm.
is the major mechanic? There is a bird,
Hmm.
right? So how do you put a sprite on
Hmm.
the engine? Then
Hmm.
how do you add gravity to it is the second question. Third question might be, when I press space, how do I add some upward force,
Hmm.
right? Or something that moves it upward. How do I move this picture upward?
Hmm.
Then how do I, detect the collision between the pipe, or my this bird touching the pipes that you put in if you have played Flappy Bird,
Hmm.
right? So that is
Right.
how it works. Okay.
Hmm.
uh, so essentially you understand, you write it down, you
Hmm.
write down all the interactions, then you ask question, how do I do it, how do I do it, one
Hmm.
line at a time. You write
Hmm.
one line of code and get there. So
Hmm.
that is one approach.
Hmm.
Then other approach is just go ahead, copy paste some tutorials. Once
Hmm.
you get the basic ropes,
Hmm.
ki this is how collision works, this is how I put my sprites over there, then you eventually go to the second approach and flow. So I have seen people doing both. The better one is to first go ahead, do a rollerball tutorial from Unity,
Okay.
then venture into this copying, cloning
Okay.
projects. So
Okay.
yeah.
But let's talk about the formal education. ये तो आपने
Mhm.
सेल्फ लर्निंग अगर किसी को करनी है तो वो बता
Mhm.
दिया. But what is the formal route for somebody? Is it through CS or is it there is a specialized course for game development?
You don't need a specialized course, right?
Okay.
You can learn anything if you want to. That is the thing. But if you really want a specialization, nowadays, there are edtechs. Then BTechs do offer, specializations as well.
Okay.
So that is the course you can go if you choose. Then there are a lot of free courses, Udemy courses, edX courses. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's so much material is available. You just need to ask, like, where should I start? Where should I go? I usually recommend Unity ke own learning resources for self-starting it to understand. Do you even want to be a game dev? Once you do it for a month, you want to be a game dev, then you buy courses. That's a smart purchasing decision.
बट अगर किसी को जैसे बैचलर्स करनी है तो वो बैचलर्स कौन से फील्ड में करे ताकि उसका गेम डेवलपमेंट करियर से अलाइन हो जाए? CS?
CS, or BCA he can do, MCA, or even IIT, BTech IT.
ओके.
So it will align, but essentially I've seen mechanical folks coming in, civil folks coming in, non-technical guys coming in. It's just about putting in the effort, going there, learning. If you do it for 6 months, you can learn it. No problems there.
Okay, okay, right. So BTech route, the BSc route, the BCA route, the routes that focus mostly on computers,
Computers.
yeah, is the way to go. You can eventually learn more about game development, right? So we can talk about a few additional skills that a person needs when he wants to get into game development. जैसे normal education, formal education सब करके आएंगे. But additional skills apart from the technical stuff that he has to learn, what additional skills do you think that a person should have?
So essentially, if you want to get into game dev, you need to have a good command over vector mathematics, right? Coordinate maths. So that is one thing you need to know. Then apart from it, if you have coded before in any other language, it's a plus. If you haven't, then too you can go into it. It's not like you really need prerequisites. If you have studied mathematics till 10th, well, right, then you can get here. But 11th, 12th ka math, some portions are there that you need to cover. So if you search up game mathematics for game devs, you can get a playlist out there on YouTube. Watch that playlist, you are good to go. And essentially what happens is, with developers, we don't learn everything, right? We learn it on the go. When we need something, we just learn it. You watch 10 tutorials, you are good, you apply it, then it's in your arsenal of things. So eventually over the years you get a lot of tips and tricks. So that is how you go, rather than learning it in one go and then going there applying for a job. You build 2 3 projects and then apply for a job. 2 3 small projects, maybe copy it even,
Hmm.
right, from YouTube. You are good to go.
Basically, you have to just show them that, hey, I have done stuff and I will be able to do stuff that you will give me on the job.
Yeah, proof of work should be there.
Hmm.
It becomes easier sometimes, right, when you are associated with some organizations,
Hmm.
like you asked, right, some colleges, if you have had like a BTech, or in the background you have CSE somewhere, it helps, right? I won't deny that. A
Hmm.
lot of times, even your placement also helps. Agar college ki, if it is good, if there is a gaming company, it's not usually there a lot of time, but if it is there, it helps somewhat. But
Hmm.
then too, you can go apply off campus. Not a
Hmm.
big deal.
But speaking of campus and fresher jobs, uh, can you talk about salary ranges कि fresher की salaries कितनी range में होती हैं and क्या growth potential है इस field में?
Okay, so essentially, when we have these freshers coming out, depends on the tier of the college,
Hmm.
right, and the level of the skill.
Hmm.
So if I have to teach them from zero up, for example, they are joining a company,
Hmm.
right? I have to teach. So usually companies give like 15 to 20K, same intern wala salary they give, right? But if they already know, they have done something in game development, they show ki I have had projects or published something, say in the last year of their development journey.
Hmm.
So it can go up to like 50K per month in
Hmm.
the starting, right? Then again, if they are tier one, so I've even seen some guys bagging salaries up to 70 80K, but like rare. Usually
Hmm.
not all of them,
Hmm.
but some of them.
But yeah,
So
somebody is having potential can definitely.
yeah, they can go there. Like there was this one person I was talking to. So what he did, he applied, like overseas. So he
Hmm.
was earning in dollar, converting in INR. So then his salary was a lot. He was working remote. So he said, I am actually spending in, rupees, earning in dollar. So
Yeah.
that's where, my leverage is going. So
Hmm.
then you can, own that money. Yeah.
Hmm. Right. आ, तो ये बताओ कि जैसे काफी सारे स्टूडेंट्स ये पॉडकास्ट देखेंगे, डेफिनेटली फर्स्ट लेवल पे दे वांट टू नो कि क्या है इसमें, क्या क्या होगा इसमें, इस करियर में, इस फील्ड में. तो आप थोड़ा सा ये बताइए कि व्हाट इज द फ्यूचर ऑफ गेमिंग इंडस्ट्री, मतलब कितना ग्रोथ पोटेंशियल आपको दिखता है? डू यू थिंक देयर इज गोइंग टू बी एन इनफ्लक्स ऑफ huge number of students into the
Hmm.
gaming industry because we are seeing that there are so many games coming out every single day?
So first thing first, game खेलने तो नहीं मिलेगा, ये भूल जाओ. A lot of people come in, they will like, will play games, right? Will be paid. You might be paid if you are a game tester for playing game, but that's not an easy task because you have to play one level 1,000 times. Going forward, you asked for the growth potential essentially, right? Day to day involves programming for a programmer, then 3D modeling for a 3D modeler, right? You sit at a place, 7 8 hours, you go about your business, then you get back. That is the one thing. Then going ahead, growth potential, you can eventually get into AR VR, right? So that is where the thing is. And AR VR have not just gaming application, but application in medicine, if you can think of, right? Virtual anatomies are coming up. Then if you think of right now, in schools they are like right now using the real chemicals, right? But again, you're if you calculate the amount of chemical they are using,
Hmm.
then virtual labs are coming in, so that students are not harmed in any way. Then going ahead, like if you just think all the VRK,
Hmm.
what do we say, applications,
Hmm.
self-driving car, right? The car can
Hmm.
simulate in a game
Hmm.
what should be done, right? Then
Hmm.
put it in real world,
Hmm.
वैसा कुछ. So these kind of applications can be there, not just this
Hmm.
gaming, but again, if you see the Vision Pro, Apple ka,
Hmm.
so eventually the development would shift there, right?
Hmm.
If you can think of that, web development would be more of a spatial experience than
Hmm.
just a 2D experience. Then where do you go? You go to this gaming engines, or you need some spatial software to get these uh, like websites in a 3D version of it. Just
Hmm.
imagine, right? So it would be very different. So that is how I usually like to think. So
हम्म। बट इंडिया में मतलब क्या फ्यूचर आपको दिखता है? बिकॉज जैसे हमने जितनी भी फेमस गेम्स देखी हैं, hardly we've seen Indian games that have been popular across the world. So इंडिया की क्या ट्रेजेक्टरी आपको लगता है कि इंडिया में स्कोप रहेगा या फिर इवेंचुअली बाहर ही मूव आउट करना पड़ेगा?
India though is the DAU farm of the world, na, daily active user. So
हम्म।
if you think about it, mobile, if you see when Geo came in, right now we have 25% CAGR. Like
हम्म।
I always remain on conservative side, so the 30 is the number, I guess. So if you look at even 25% CAGR and the number of mobiles are growing, people are getting access to better and better internet. 5G is coming around. That
हम्म।
might have one more wave,
हम्म।
right? A lot of commuters are there. So
हम्म।
usually I've seen a lot of people, play games. Even like my mother, a lot of times she plays this match 3 Candy Crush
हम्म।
game. So you have audience, right? They have this time in between time where they can't do anything,
हम्म।
right? But they want to do something, either listen song, but a lot of them go to games. So essentially you can capitalize these audience. So yeah, I think it would grow a lot. Like 25% CAGR is a good number. Go into mobile gaming, because it drives out, I guess, 50% of the revenue. Plus, gaming market is more than your movie and I guess music. So these two combined. There were
Oh।
some numbers, I guess, right? Read it somewhere. Not 100% sure, but
हम्म।
something like that. Yeah.
या बिकॉज वो फिगर जो मैंने बताया, $243 billion, दैट आल्सो आई रेड इन अ रिपोर्ट. सो या, स्पीकिंग ऑफ गेम्स एट लार्ज स्केल, तो ये जो बड़े बड़े गेम स्टूडियोज होते हैं, जो जिनका काम ही है ये गेम बनाना ही उनका काम है, तो हाउ डू दे एक्चुअली अर्न? बिकॉज मोस्ट ऑफ द गेम्स दैट वी प्ले जो
Mm.
फेमस हैं, दे आर यूजुअली फ्री एंड सम आर डेफिनेटली पेड. जैसे कॉल ऑफ ड्यूटी, आई थिंक काफी फेमस गेम है एंड दैट्स पेड. उसके उसके तो जो क्रेजी फैंस है, दे तो बाय लाइक
Games.
yeah. But yeah, mostly apart from that, what are the revenue sources for a game studio?
Eh, I'll reverse Uno this question. First you answer, then I'll get to an answer. What do you think? How do they earn?
I think one is definitely subscriptions, paid subscriptions, and
Mm-hmm.
especially for good games that have so many levels. For every level,
Mm-hmm.
they charge. The other one, which I don't play games that much, but I've seen like my mother and the kids of my house play. So they have a lot of ads coming up. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
sponsorships and maybe licensing. I don't know if that even makes sense, but yeah.
So actually, you are correct on analyzing all three of these things, right? Essentially, it depends on the level of the game as well.
Okay.
Like there are AAA titles, very huge games, God of War. You have GTA 5. Then
Hmm.
you have Call of Duty, the earlier versions,
Hmm.
campaign modes,
Hmm.
right? Then if you think about these three games that I have called, then Far Cry, you have Ubisoft ka games. So they are paid upfront. So
Hmm.
you purchase them,
Hmm.
right? For example, you get them for $1,000. That's
Hmm.
how it goes.
Hmm.
Then ad revenue is there. Then you have skins,
Hmm.
in-game skins or in-game currencies. If you look at Valorant, free to play, but if you want to stand out, you
Hmm.
buy those skins, and there are even markets that let you sell those skins, right? There was this guy who actually created an account. He had a very legendary sword in World of Warcraft. He sold his account, so you even sell that. Then there is a way in which you can earn, like for example in GTA 5 there is a GTA RP,
Hmm.
role playing. So what they do, like it's like a Sims, live Sims there, right? So people actually, like there was a friend who actually got married in the game. So he actually purchased the whole like stadium wide design for their banquet, right, from a developer. If you need
Hmm.
cars, you purchase that. So
Hmm.
that is one way of earning. And then going ahead, like the hyper casual games that are on the phone, they generally stick to ads for earning, or they can essentially, do in-app purchases like Clash of Clans, right? They play with psychology. It is free to play, but if something takes like say 20 days to upgrade, I'm gonna get frustrated. I wanted to upgrade today, so I purchase those in-game gems, right? And then spend it there. So these are some ways that you can, monetize. Or sometimes it's more like, you get them freemium game, you give them 10 levels, then ask them to pay per level, right? If you like the game, or watch 30-40 ads, right? And then you unlock the level. So that is out. You have DLCs, that is extra content. You build a game like Witcher 3 came in, Wild Hunt. Then what you do after 3-4 years, you say, okay, we have opened up a new expansion to it, new upgrade. You have like 30-40 more quests, right? So they didn't get paid for that. But just for an example, you also purchase that part of the game. So it adds 20-30 hours of more content to the same game. So fans do purchase. You have merchandise, a lot of merchandise going in. That's a good, but not all games can do that.
Yeah, you need to have a really huge fan following
Fan base.
to
Yeah,
sell
yeah.
merchandise. But आपके according जैसे PUBG level का game है, which is like world famous game and has millions of users, millions of players. उसको बनाने में कितना पैसा लगा होगा, कितने resources लगे होंगे? Just a ballpark figure अगर आप idea दे पाओ तो.
So I asked this question to my mentor. He didn't give me the number of like money. He didn't tell me. He was, I guess, working at Tencent at that time. So he just told me ki Shubham, at least 300 people are involved in it, because you need networking, right? Back end engineers, you need front end, you need audio guys, right? You need some people to just fix up bugs, some people to design new things, people to design, like fix up old things. There's something called as a meta, right? When you are playing a game, you have different guns, okay? So which gun, what is the use rate of which gun, and how to, get everyone to use each and every gun. Not each and every, but essentially have a balance, right? If is some player overpowered, so you also see that, right? Some kind of agent is overpowered. So essentially, there's a big team involved in it. If someone wants to go and do it alone, it would take a lot of time. So yeah.
Absolutely.
So 300 people is a ballpark. If you look at the average salaries, let's say for 25K, you multiply it then into three, then you get around something 75 lakhs. So a crore, I guess, the most naive amount that you need to look at.
But we also have to look at the server का भी तो hefty
But
amount
that is why I said na naive cost. Yeah, hardware is there. Then you have, not just these people. Then you have a lot of people marketing bhi hai that you have to do, right? Essential. Then you need to do lead generation, SEO, SEM, everything that a business
everything.
needs.
Yeah.
So you involve that, then it exceeds that budget.
You were talking about the involvement of psychologists in a game.
Yeah.
So are games necessarily designed in a way to make them addictive? जैसे PUBG जब आया था, it was such a hype that everybody was addicted, right? And we have seen cases wherein kids have gotten addicted to games. There was this game which Pokemon वाला, वो कौन सा game आया था जिसमें वो
Pokemon Go.
हाँ, people got addicted
Yeah.
to, मतलब बच्चों ने जो अपने माँ बाप के क्रेडिट कार्ड्स ड्रेन कर दिए. So are the games designed in a way to make them addictive?
So when you look at gameplay, you have a fun factor, right? How can a fun factor be there? So when you're playing it, it does something to you, makes you feel good. And usually, dopamine makes you feel good,
Yeah.
right? So you design it in a certain way, right? So that it releases dopamine in some sense. So games right now have looked at this like COC, right? It makes people like after I guess 4 hours, you can't play it anymore. It shuts down for some time for the user to tell him go work, do something, see the daylight, right? So when you're designing, by design, games need to be, fun. And if there is fun, then, dopamine would be released. So eventually, it can be addictive, yes. But
Hmm.
there are some games which are not addictive, some which are made by design addictive. There are some games which actually use your greed, real time money games. Just say, for example, Rummy is there,
Hmm.
right? If you think about this fantasy cricket games, that is
Hmm.
a good way to, earn
Hmm.
money as well. You make up teams, then you are essentially betting, right,
Hmm.
on the teams.
Hmm.
Ki this is the win percentage.
Yeah.
That is, it involves a lot of strategy, right? I've seen my friend researching a lot. Ki pitch condition, what is it, right? He used to do that in hostels.
Hmm.
So that is the way. So by design, yes, it is addictive.
Hmm. Hmm.
Simple answer.
Hmm.
Because if it isn't fun, why would you even play games? Want
Hmm.
to do something else which is much more fun, right?
Yeah, certainly. थोड़ा हैवी हो गया बिकॉज टू नो दैट हाँ ये बनाई इसलिए ये एडिक्टिव हो जाना तो मतलब मैं तो आधे टाइम खेलती इसलिए यार कि हाँ मुझे पता है कि आई एम जस्ट गोना ऑब्सेस ओवर इट सो आई abstain myself from not playing too much but yeah I usually also don't play because there's obviously a lot of work so but yeah I whenever I take out time थोड़ा सा वो डर तो रहता ही है तो गेमर्स को डर नहीं रहता ये वाला कि यार ये एडिक्टिव हो जाएगा हाउ मैं एक्चुअली गोना कम आउट ऑफ दिस रक्कस देन
I have a beautiful answer for it, right? If you see Instagram, LinkedIn, if you see YouTube,
हम्म
it's a power in your hand if you use it well, right? But
हम्म
if you don't use it well, then what happens? You're just, in for doom scrolling,
माइंडलेस स्क्रॉलिंग
infinity
या
hours of, reels and content and stuff. So it
हम्म
depends on you. If you play it for half an hour, it has shown to increase your cognition better. Like, gamers track more objects than a
हम्म
normal person do, right? They can build up good strategies at a blink of an eye if they're, playing some of these games, because it requires you to create strategy pretty fast, right? Then you
हम्म
can get experiences you cannot get in your life, right? Anywhere.
हम्म
So games give you this sense of storytelling. There is a lot of good things with the games, bad things as well. You need to understand how do you, go ahead and approach it. I see it like an art. So when I play it, I enjoy it. So
हम्म
that is my perspective. I play it, for example, maximum an hour. Then, I rest up. Then I
हम्म
again play after an hour or two. I know, because for health, I need to do that. So
हम्म
you need to take care of yourself. It's your responsibility, not games. That
हम्म
is how it goes.
हम्म लेट्स टॉक अबाउट इंडी डेवलपर्स नाउ इंडी गेम डेवलपर्स क्या होते हैं ये इंडी गेम डेवलपर्स
उदास लोग होते हैं. I'm
व्हाई
kidding.
वुड
So
यू
these
से
guys are just so indie game developers, are very, very passionate game devs. Essentially, these people, uh, go ahead. They have ideas, right? They create their own games. Single man army. They do that. They're like entrepreneurs, right? But the grind they have to do is something breathtaking. So there is a documentary on indie game devs. When you see that, you understand what is at the stake, and if you want to be an indie game dev or not, right? You need to know the both the sides. There is a, upside to it. Ki, these indie game devs make a single game, they make a lot of money, they have their name out there, but a lot of them fail as well. People never show the failure ones. They always, like brighten up the ones who are at the top. So you need to understand both the sides, the grind involved, and if you can't deal with uncertainty, don't go there. So it's generally one person and doing all these functions that I told you. Right? Audio bhi wahi bana raha hai. He's building sprites. Sometimes he can get people on board, but the team is not that big. Right? It might be 10 people. Depends on the scope of your game. For example, Stardew Valley, a good passion project of someone. Right? It took like I guess 5 years, 4 to 5 years to get completed, and that time that guy was actually surviving because by doing a second job, right? At the night he was working
Hmm.
somewhere as a chauffeur, then
Hmm.
in the day he was grinding, no family time at all, right? His family was supportive, but
Hmm.
essentially it involves a lot of things. You have to sacrifice a lot. He
Hmm.
never took vacations, so that documentary covers the essence
Hmm.
of being a indie dev and what you have to sacrifice for
Hmm.
that.
Do
So
you know any famous? Can you name any famous indie game developers?
that's a good question. Can't recall. Jonathan Tyroller is one. Then you have Team Cherry, as I can remember. Then Hollow Knight is. I remember games, but I essentially don't really recall the indie game dev names.
Yeah. मतलब
Uh,
यही जानना है कि कोई developer and then what games have they developed? Are they wildly popular or not?
so you have Dead Cells as a game, right? Then you have Cuphead as a game. Then going ahead, for indie games, you have Mother Gunship. That's a pretty good game. Baba Is You. So these are the games, but I don't really recall the name of the developers,
Hmm.
right? And that is how things work. You remember their art, you don't remember the artist a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Shubham, हमने painted a very beautiful picture about the gaming industry, but can you talk about the dark sides? Are there any?
Yeah, like every other industry, there are two sides of the coin. So yeah, there are dark sides. So going into the gaming industry, because people are a lot passionate when they start.
Hmm.
So there's this one thing, you might lose passion on the way, right, for the craft, 2 3 years down the lane. Then there are a lot of nowadays, because a game might end up in 1 year, 2 year. So there are more contractual jobs at times,
Hmm.
right, that don't give benefit to a lot of these gaming folks that are there if they're not full-time employee. So that is one problem. Then going ahead, if we also talk about, because people are passionate, right, a lot of time they are exploited, right? Overtime without pay is again another problem. Work life balance, right? If person is not able to draw a line there, comes up to a big problem for some people going ahead. Then the biggest problem I have come across is people eventually losing out their passion on this, their drive, to usually cure that. Essentially, one should keep on playing games,
Hmm.
right? Because when you're developing game, you rarely are able to play games. You
Hmm.
don't get enough time.
Hmm.
So on weekends or whenever you get the time, you
Hmm.
put in play games. You draw a line between work and play, because you essentially loved games. That is why you came here. So also play it, right? Have that time, and
Hmm.
eventually work on your passion idea, because every game developer who comes and becomes a game dev have some idea. Okay, this
Hmm.
is my dream game I am gonna create. So
Hmm.
start creating that. That would reignite your passion. Try
Hmm.
to even launch it eventually,
Hmm.
and that might make you feel fulfilled that you have done it. And then again, career careers, right now, you can even transition. So it's not that you are stuck. You can be a game designer. If you are a very good game developer, you can eventually go to the management side of games, right? You can be a producer. Then if you really don't like it, you are a game developer, right? You can transition into a very similar role as a software developer.
Hmm.
Plus, worst to worst case, take 6 months off, upskill, get
Hmm.
to a new role that you want to. Because life, you can learn things. It's not
Hmm.
like you can't. I have seen some people transitioning at 40, 50, right? Some of them going through different things.
Hmm.
Got a mentor who transitioned from game dev, earned his money the way he wanted. Then he transitioned to be a photographer because he wanted to, and he was holding that in. So it depends on you. So that's essentially the dark side, but there are ways to deal with it as
Hmm.
well. It's not essentially, all the dark picture, but you need to be able to understand what is acceptable to you, what is not,
Hmm.
voice it out, and get there.
Yeah, I think it's important कि आपको दोनों sides of the coin पता हो and you must know beforehand what you're signing up for. मतलब बाद में वो passion lose out होना, drain हो जाना, तो वो उसको अवॉइड करने के लिए स्टार्टिंग से ही, जैसे शुभम ने बोला कि प्ले द गेम्स ऑल्सो, बिल्ड योर पैशन प्रोजेक्ट साइड बाय साइड विच मेक्स यू मोर फुलफिल्ड व्हाइल यूर ऑन द जॉब. So yeah, that's about it. So this brings us to the end of the podcast. It was like a really insightful, with loaded with so much of information and so much of fun facts. So but before we sign off, I have this round that is called as Curious Candids. It's a rapid fire round, and you have to quickly answer the questions. Are you ready?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's go.
Favorite game of all time?
Far Karti.
I'm hearing it for the first time, but yeah. Code first or design first?
Code first.
Okay. How many games have you developed so far?
10, I guess.
VR, future or fad?
Future.
Okay. Racing games or fighting games?
Fighting games.
Okay. Games बनाना ज्यादा पसंद है या खेलना ज्यादा पसंद है?
Both.
Okay, well, that was the end of the Curious Candid round. Thank you so much, Shubham, for doing this. It was a great conversation. Personally loved it, and I'm pretty sure जो भी ये देखेगा उसको by the end of the podcast उसको clarity हो जाएगी कि मुझे इस पर्टिकुलर फील्ड से क्या एक्सपेक्ट करना चाहिए, क्या मेरा ग्रोथ पोटेंशियल हो सकता है, मैं कहाँ तक जा सकता हूँ, और मुझे कितनी मेहनत एक्चुअली में करनी है टू बी एबल टू गेन द काइंड ऑफ नॉलेज दैट शुभम इज प्रेजेंटिंग इन फ्रंट ऑफ अस. So thank you so much for taking out time for this.
Thank you for hosting me on this. Been fun.